Let's come back to France now, where the president, Emmanuel Macron, is trying to break through months of deadlock to find a new French prime minister. France still has no permanent government, almost 2 months after the parliamentary election that ended up with no clear winner. Today, Macron is hosting 2 former French presidents, Francois Hollande from the left and Nicolas Sarkozy from the right. There are other meetings today with 2 potential candidates for prime minister, including Bernard Cazeneuve of the center-left and Xavier Bertrand of the center-right. We're going to talk about all of this now with my guest today, French politics expert Paul Smith from the University of Nottingham. Paul, thank you so much for joining us and breaking this all down for us. Just set the stage for our viewers first. Why has it taken it so long for France to get a new prime minister? What's the holdup?
Well, the holdup is to do with finding somebody who could actually command some kind of stable majority in the National Assembly. As we all know, the elections took place back in June and July, and we've got no absolute majority in the National Assembly. And therefore you've got a problem of anybody who's appointed putting a government together actually falling at the first hurdle through a motion of no confidence. You then throw into the mix Macron's own distaste for say a left-wing bloc, and that makes it, that adds the number of obstacles to the process.
Is there any precedent for this? Has France ever gone this long before without a prime minister?
No, certainly not under the Fifth Republic, and even under the Fourth Republic, which was a much more fragmented and less presidential system. Even there, the record was something like a month, a little bit over a month for finding someone. But then it was always about a prime minister talking to parties and putting a government together, and then going to talk to the president, and because it was not a presidential regime, and putting a government together and then that getting voted in. But those would not last for very long. So there's kind of previous, but certainly not since 1958. So, and the length, even under the old Fourth Republic, we never saw anything like this long.
Right. It does seem now that there is some forward movement, perhaps. Today, Macron's meeting 2 contenders. The one who seems to be leading the race, at least according to the French media so far, is a former prime minister himself. His name is Bernard Cazeneuve. What more can you tell us about him, and is he a shoo-in?
No, he's absolutely not a shoo-in. What I can tell you is that he was interior minister. He was a minister under François Hollande when he was president, and of course he was the last prime minister under Hollande. He was kind of in a sort of holding role while Manuel Valls campaigned in the left-wing primary. So he's seen as being a left-winger, but a very conservative with a small c member of the Socialist Party or of the left. So he would be seen as being, I suppose, a bridgehead towards the left, the very moderate left, if that exists. So he's the front runner. You mentioned Xavier Bertrand, but I've heard a couple of names doing the rounds this morning as well. David Linard, who's the mayor of Cannes, and also there's a fellow called Thierry Baudet, who's the president of the Economic, Social and Environmental Council. So this looks like it's by no means a done deal yet.
So, as you mentioned, Macron today is not just meeting with these contenders. He's also meeting with some former presidents, some of his predecessors, the socialist president Francois Hollande, who was president when Bernard Cazeneuve was prime minister. Also meeting with Nicolas Sarkozy, the conservative former president. I mean, is that a tradition to meet for a current president, to meet with his predecessors, I guess, for advice?
No, I don't think there's much of a precedent for it. I mean, there would be kind of unofficial talks and advice and asking for views. But inviting Hollande's very interesting. Hollande last week made it quite clear that in his view, if you're going to appoint someone from the left, it has to be somebody from that bloc, that left-wing bloc, and that's Lucie Castet. There was actually a tweet by Marine Tondelier, leader of the Greens, who was a very warm response to Hollande's solidarity. Whereas the invitation to Sarkozy, I think, is because Macron thinks that Sarkozy still has some kind of control over the right.
Paul, whoever the prime minister is going to be, and again, no guarantee that it's going to happen today, what are the biggest challenges going to be ahead for that prime minister?
Well, I mean, the biggest challenge is actually presenting the budget is the first thing. The budget has to be presented to the National Assembly at the beginning of October. The budget has to be thrashed out by the new government. So we're not just talking, of course, about a prime minister. We've got to find a finance minister. We've got to put the teams together to come up with that budget. France is facing huge levels of public debt. And of course, we're also looking at huge opposition on the left to continuing with the implementation of the pensions reform, problems in French schools. So there's a bit of it's not a complete powder keg situation, but the government is facing, any incoming government is going to be facing some really significant political and social problems, even, within minutes of being appointed.
All right, Paul, thank you for that. I'm sure we'll be checking back in with you at some point to talk more about that prime minister, whoever it ends up being. That's a French politics expert, Paul Smith, speaking to me there.